One of the things I see bubbling around me, even in some sense within me, and within all the people I know, is a certain kind of self-righteousness. Meaning that we create for ourselves a certain sense that we know. This is certainly happening in the political arena. It's happening in so many aspects of daily life, and it also occurs in the spiritual arena. That in some fundamental way, our path is the path, or we wouldn't be on it. There's not a lot of doubting what we think we know. I watch the news. I think a lot of people may be watching the news these days, or maybe that's a confession that in spiritual circles people don't want to say they're doing. But I'm very interested in the world and what's going on around me, and I watch a lot of what would be called liberal media. And it's really interesting what happens. A certain kind of we're the ones who know and they don't occupies the media. A kind of assumption that often is accompanied by a kind of a laugh. This strange little laughter that, how is it that they don't get it? That it's so clear to anybody who's well educated, who has been around in the world, who has been part of the establishment and the academic universe or the elite universe that people are supposedly questioning or rebelling against. The people who come from that ilk have a sense that they know. They know scientifically, they know theoretically, they know philosophically, they know theologically. There's a sense of we've read, we've been tutored, we have been educated, we have been exposed to the world of fact and science and truth and reality, and therefore our assumptions are grounded and yours are not. Yours are emotional, they're felt, they are assumed, they are fed with inaccuracies, they have no idea of what they're about. And these polarities start to create this kind of drama that exists, as we all know, all around us. What to do about thinking you know? How do you challenge your own knowledge base? How do you challenge your own truth? So many people I know who enter the world of spirituality is to try to get a greater truth, a larger sense of things, to have something that is affirmed not just by their textbooks, but by extraordinary teachings, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Christ, you can go on and on. All the great teachers give you a certain kind of higher degree of certainty. And so we pursue a lot of these things so that we can get out of our limited knowledge and begin to assume a greater wisdom, a greater knowledge. And what happens is that you become comforted by and comfortable in the wisdom of the ages. Clearly, because this was taught by Christ and Buddha and Muhammad and on and on and on. You know, people who lived 2,000 years ago, as though that's an enormous amount of time. And because their teaching and their awareness has percolated through the time-tested reality to this moment, there must be some substantial reality in it. And I'm not saying there's not. But the fact that any one of us knows it to be true is problematic. It's not necessarily wrong to believe. It's not necessarily wrong to hold to these beliefs. But there is the potential for a kind of self-righteousness that walks around feeling holier than thou, that walks around with this deep perception that I know and you don't. That my wisdom base, my knowledge, is so much greater than all the other stupid people out there, the lesser people. And I know the minute I say stupid and lesser, everybody's getting kind of riled up, like, no, we don't believe that. That's not the way we look at it. But there really is a kind of underpinning of superiority, assurance, knowing. And the problem with knowing is that there's a knower. And the knower, in the deepest sense of spiritual teaching, is often at the core of the problem. That which knows is a finite knowing. That infinite knowing, even when it is cognated, is somehow, one feels, of a higher nature, and therefore more true. But every bit of knowing has a reflective aspect that goes back to the person who has that awareness. So many spiritual traditions talk about the transcendent, that which rises above the knower, where knowing and the known and the knower become one. And everyone who is on that path to becoming the knower, the known, and the knowing senses, I think, a certain amount of assurance that this will bring them to a kind of space of being that rises above, and again, to use the word specifically, transcends everybody else's limited awareness. I can only discuss the experience that goes on here. And I will tell you that there is no ability, transcendent or otherwise, that you can have in this lifetime. There is only the profound isness that we're all experiencing, every one of us. We're all touching it. We're all in it together. We are all of the same substance. We're all of the same truth, if you will. We share it. This idea of trying to become bigger than, better than, above it, transcendent of, is in a certain sense problematic. Because this idea of being free or trapped is so caught in the whole idea of duality. freedom from what? The mere idea of freedom implies that there are those who are not free. The mere idea that you can have it, meaning that others might not, is deeply, deeply soiled by this separateness. There is no journey to anything that will make you free if anybody else is not free. You may become aware of the vastness in which all of this drama occurs, in which all of this knowing occurs. You may become one with that. You may become that which supersedes all that manifests in the world. You may find yourself on a mountaintop in the Himalayas, far removed from the dramas of human life. But that mountain is on the earth. That cave, that solitude, that space of knowing is grounded in the world. Moment to moment reality unfolds. Moment to moment reality reveals itself until it doesn't. Reaching for knowing, reaching for the truth, reaching for something that can be articulated will end in a certain kind of frustration. I can only tell you, again, from this particular point of view, that give it up. There is no righteous knowing. There is nothing you can have. There is nothing you can hold on to. There is nothing you can take to the bank. There is nothing you can believe in that will be true. There is only a profound presence that has within it something that can be experiential and full of non-verbal, inexpressible beauty and wonder. And it feels like, probably is best defined as love or compassion, kindness. And it is, in the end, wordless. It is the end, nothing that will give you superiority, nothing that will separate you from the masses, nothing that will make you free of human suffering, nothing that will release you from truth. It will be the only thing that allows you to walk through the universe, through the manifested world, and be present in it, to be truly present in it. And that is this expansive and expanding sense of caring about it. Not for your own sake, but for its sake. That there is this phenomenal love and beauty and wonder that is inexpressible, and there is no ownership of it. There is no one to own it. There is only the it, or the presence. It will make you humble, not as an act of humility, but because there's nothing but humility. There is nothing but humbleness. You do not, we do not, no one can know it. You are it in whatever mysterious, miraculous form that may take. You are the thing that this world has wanted to exist. It makes you very simple in your state of being. My experience is that I truly have this sense day by day of knowing less and less and less and less. And every time I sit here, I feel somewhat foolish because I know the words that are being spoken are only hinting at something that I feel is so much more completely expressed wordlessly through touch, hugs, glances, feelings that express themselves and roll out into the universe. This, if you will call it a way, a spiritual embrace, a simple beauty that is undefinable. And every time I try to find the form, I know I'm so far from it. And so I don't even know how to direct anybody into an end game of spiritual pursuit. What is the end game? Am I going to give you peace and freedom and joy and having anything? No. No. It's not like that. There's no end game, really. This is the end game. You're in it. You are it. You are the end game. The only thing I can suggest is that the less of you there is, the more love, compassion, sweetness, kindness, truth, beauty, whatever, seems to be available. The less you put your hands on it, the more it just wafts out. And even all of what I'm saying may be too much of a belief system and an idea and a self-righteous sensibility. So what is this spiritual thing we're all trying to do? And what is it here that I'm trying to share with you? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And everybody's trying to get it. And you know, if people refer to the ancient texts, and people refer to the heaven to come, and people refer to the possibility of, you know, of redemption and endless joy and bliss in some ecstatic state. So, I mean, I keep thinking I'm talking myself out of any kind of practice and any kind of offering. But this thing does come up every time we sit, and it wants to share itself, and it wants to be expressed, even if badly, and even if there's some vague self-righteous sense of this is how it is. Because I can only tell you it's not how it is, but this is what I know of it. So I keep putting it out. To what end, I do not know, except that it seems to want it to be out there. It wants to rise up and be in the environment. It wants that. And I know that each one of you sitting here, and probably those of you who are listening to this talk, have a feeling inside that you too want to emanate this thing. You too are an emanation of it. Maybe you just want to have an acknowledgement of that. Maybe you just want to have somebody certify it, you know, give you some kind of diploma. Well, here you are. Here's your diploma. Walk out there and be it. It doesn't take anything. It really doesn't. It just takes being simple, open, unattached, surrendered, and available to what it is that's happening right now. Because that's all you know. That's all you will know. Big or small, crazy or sane, you know, humane or inhumane. This is what it is. It is ungraspable. And as much as we try to grasp it, and I know there's still a part of me that keeps trying to go, but why? What is it? I know there's part of that that goes on. The dramatist in me wants to understand the narrative. It wants to understand how you have beginnings, middle, and ends, when in fact there are no beginnings, middle, and ends. I understand the programming we all go through. It's really complicated and it's difficult, and we come into the world loved and unloved, and angry and hostile, and loving and generous. We are all these extraordinary kind of complications, and the most we can do, and I see it working all the time, when you love somebody, when you touch somebody, when you become generous with somebody, when you give, when you allow yourself to be touched by, and when you allow yourself to touch another, something wonderful happens. Something happens that makes the world better. It's better than it was in some relative sense. So maybe that's the teaching. Love, compassion, kindness, sharing, touching. I really think that's probably the totality of it. And with nothing in return. Because nothing in return will be as great as the giving. Nothing. Giving is everything. So, as I said, there are no beginnings, no middles or ends really in life. And this talk has no beginning, middle, or end, so I'm just going to stop. And I'm going to thank you guys for coming, and I tell you that I love you, and I do, and I sit with you, and I emanate as much love as is possible through this form. And I hope it connects, and I hope you pass it on, because that's the job. I don't need it. You don't have to love me. Just share it. Thank you. Any questions?
Do you know that you can't know? I mean, I guess sometimes when, maybe, lack of better words, when you get out of your own way, there is a deeper knowing, and some things you kind of know, I don't know, whatever for sure, but there's a, penetration into something, or an understanding of something, like the isness maybe that you talk about. But do you know that there is no knowing, or maybe there's no keeping?
No, put it that way. That's a good one. No keeping. The know that you know, the knowing that you know at this moment is pretty profound. But the next moment is not necessarily the same thing. So keeping it is really hard. Staying open to knowing is meaning just be open. And this knowing is kind of a living presence. And so I use the word presence rather than knowing, because knowing implies that somebody knows something. Presence just is. And presence is really, in many ways, what defines all of us in some fundamental way that is not graspable. What is presence? What is manifested presence? That's where mystery comes in for me, and miracle. I cannot put words to the form that this world has taken, to the unbelievable nature of what it means to be embodied, to what it means to have solid anything, including ground, spacious sky, air. I can't, I mean, I know scientists try, and they walk around with a sense of, well, this is what it is. This is what air is. This is what sky is. This is what ground is. This is how it works. And we explore the manifested realm with a great deal of self-righteous awareness. But although every scientist I've ever heard who I really respect says we only have the tiniest little finger hold on the truth. So I respect that. I think we're all trying to know a little bit of it. But I will tell you, in the long run, for me, every little bit of knowing separates me from truth, because it's something so much more. So I keep trying to reach into the presence. I keep trying to reach into the unknowability, because the unknowability is so powerful and vast and so allowing and real and present that somehow sitting in that space is transformative and, if you want to call it, liberating. On the other hand, that doesn't get at it either, because it's not liberating, really, and it's not transformative, really. It only is. So liberating and transformative talk about relative times and spaces and people who get changed from one form of matter into another form of matter. That's all worth talking about, I guess. But the deeper underpinning of all this is not transformative, it's eternally present. What do you say about that? I don't know. I don't know. You know, I sit here like I know something. I don't know, except I have touched, as has everybody in this room and probably everybody listening and maybe everybody in the manifested world, we have touched matter, time, and space, which is a form of the unformed, formless truth of being. We've all been there. We're all there right now. We're all living it, breathing it, smelling it, tasting it, touching it, hearing it. We are all that thing. And our relationship to that thing is probably the biggest thing that defines each of us individually. Some of us hate it, some of us love it, some of us grasp it, some of it don't, some don't grasp it, some live in a moral space of connection, some people live in a moral space of disconnection. There's so much variable in all of this, but there is a kind of simple quietude that can be had which will release you from grasping, holding, having, thinking you know anything, and it will be very clear and very awakening. And what you do with that, I guess you just share it as an act of love. I can't believe anybody wants to hear this anymore. But it really is unspeakable. It's just unspeakable.
But Bruce, as much as I always love everything you say, there's an energy behind it that makes all the difference.
Presence.
Not just words.
Presence. Presence is everything.
Yeah.
The words are just a container, as our bodies, as our minds, everything. So it's all, I mean, it's not wrong to go to school. It's not wrong to have belief systems. It's not wrong to analyze and discuss and understand the world. It's all of that is the manifested dialogue with the unmanifested truth. And we need the manifestation. So we're in it. I'm not trying to get rid of it. I'm not trying to say that this is a waste of time. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be essential. It just seems to be essential. I don't understand it. I understand less and less, but that is a gift to me because my understanding limited me and made me self-righteous. It made me think I knew something, and now I know deeply I don't know anything, and it's okay. Do you have another question?
You talked about freedom and the kind of absurdity of saying that being free rather than somebody else not being free. But then what are we doing here, sitting, being still, hoping to gain freedom?
Well, it's what I try to discuss, and it's really, I mean, this is the hardest part of spiritual teaching. Most people trying to be free are really trying to have freedom. Having freedom is not freedom. Being free is freedom. Having freedom is you having something which automatically is entrapped by the body-mind idea that you have something. Real freedom is just done, free. Whatever that may be, whatever it may sound like to you. I don't mean to be coy here, but this idea of wanting to have freedom in many ways entraps people in the idea that they want something and they want to have it. And in a sense, you're still as trapped in the jail as you are out of the jail in a way, because you're still embodied, you're still in the world, you're still in a separate space from everybody else having something that they may not have. It's, you know, what to say about it? I think that, trust me, the journey toward freedom requires you to want to be free. And when you finally become free, you'll realize that there never was anybody to free. The whole idea of wanting freedom was the problem. The reality is you've always had it.
Even in the most caught up secular moments? And
You know, I read last night the segment from Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov on the Grand Inquisitor, which is really an interesting thing to read. Basically, how much people don't want to be free. People really want to be embedded in somebody else's mystery, somebody else's miracle, and somebody else's authority. Because that to them, when they give up that freedom, they don't have to worry about their own freedom. Real freedom is having to choose to believe or not believe, really having to allow yourself to know that you really are responsible for who you are in the world, and giving yourself over to a teaching or a teacher or a religious principle is giving up your freedom on some level. And so many people who want to be free hand themselves over to the very jailers, if you will, the inquisitors of some higher power who walk around claiming to have it. You believe in me and we'll take care of you. That's giving your freedom up. Your freedom is to find who you are in spite of all the teachings of the world and all the teachers, all the highest and lowest principles of life. Finding your way in the middle of all that on your own is really, really freedom. Scary freedom, but it's freedom. Because no one is going to tell you other than presence itself. And when it teaches you, it will be profound. Sorry, I don't know if that's too complicated, but it's really meaningful to me. Okay. Thank you, guys. More of the same next week, I guess. And if you show up, this is what you'll get.